Saint Sharbel lived at this hermitage for 23 years, and even before him there was another hermit. He's the brother of Saint Namtallah Hardini. He lived here for 44 years, and his name was Father Lisha Hardini, very saintly man as well, and it's believed that he was the spiritual director of Saint Sharbel. So Saint Sharbel, when he was in Anaya, he would come here and he would visit Father Lisha. And then once Father Lisha passed away in 1875, that's when Saint Sharbel came up to the Hermitage. He was given permission then to come up to the Hermitage. This Hermitage very much expresses the Maronite idea of hermit's life, of monastic life as well. In Egypt, you get the sense of the desert. So the expression there would be, the desert is to leave everything, to go into the place where there's nothing, so that you can find the one thing necessary, who is Jesus Christ. Whereas in the monastic tradition, which is a Syriac tradition, many of the hermits not only went to the desert, but they also went into nature. The idea of nature is to go back to the Garden of Eden at the beginning of the Bible. It's to see creation as it is, without having changed. So there's the Hermitage. You've got the sense of nature around here with the trees, with the grass. You've got the valley down there, a beautiful views down there. You've got a view of the coast down there, and there's the silence as well. All that helps the hermit to understand God's will and his original plan for mankind. When God created the world, he created the world in a garden, and so that's why in the Syriac tradition we're called to cultivate and to live and to go back to the paradise, which is the garden as well. And the idea is to see God's original plan, and I always like to look at it in this way. I always like to see when someone's invented something new, like for example, if they invented the car, or they invented electricity, the first person to notice that would say, wow, look at this. But after several years, once they've done developments and they've changed, with these products, you forget the creator, you forget the inventor and the original invention. Whereas in nature, nothing's changed. So when the monk comes here, he's seeing God still working with his original plan, with his original creation and invention. And so that brings a sense of closeness to God. And it allows the human being to also know God's plan for his life and why he brought him to this world and his purpose for him on this earth. In the Maronite tradition, our experience of Christ is to be between the two worlds, between death and life. The monastic life is that as well. The contemplation that happens in the Eastern Church is not to define God, but to look at God as mystery. So when we talk about a catechism, we don't really have a catechism in the Eastern Church. Of course, we follow the teachings of the Church, but we say that God isn't constricted to human reasoning. Faith is to look at Jesus Christ as mystery. It's to look at the Trinity as mystery. And it's more to experience God as that mystery that we're day by day looking to come into contact with more and more. That mystery happens in contemplation when the person looks at himself and looks at himself as a sinner, looks at himself in reference to Jesus Christ, and looks at himself in reference to Scripture. In Isaiah, it says, in Isaiah 45, God says, I've given you the treasures of darkness so that you may know that I have called you by your name. The treasures of darkness means that it's the darkness of your life, the sinfulness of your life that you've lived prior to your commitment to God. Once you look at that, you realize that even then God loves you. And in the Eastern tradition, there was a great focus on that, on the focus that we can't define God outside of us. Our definition of God or our experience of God has to come from within. Our experience of God has to come from within, even in the midst of sin. It's the way I like to see it is, for example, if you look at the ocean, you look at the ocean from above and you see just the surface of the water. But if you go beneath, you're going to find a lot of darkness, but maybe you find treasure at the end of that sea. And that's to look at the human being as being a public person, but also a private person. Even the human being has a mystery within himself. A lot of the great ascetics, a lot of the great contemplatives came from the East, because the focus was not to define God in who he is, but to define ourselves and in defining ourselves to look for God. So that constant search for God is something that we can't define, but it's also looking for ourselves, and in looking for ourselves we find God. And the idea of Christ then becomes that He is the one who reveals God to us. And so there's a big focus on Scripture. There's a big focus on the person of Jesus Christ. And that's why the theological debates, a lot of them happened in the East, because it was the focus on who is Jesus Christ. Is He God or is He man? Is He God and man? Is He two persons or is He one person? Is He of two natures or is He of one nature? A lot of the Easterners took that approach from their personal experience, from their ascetic experience, and that's why a lot of problems and a lot of debate and a lot of schisms took place. But it shows that everyone is looking for Christ, and it doesn't mean that errors didn't take place. There were many errors that did take place, and many heresies that have rightly been judged and condemned. But the idea in the end is to say that Christ is above anything that we can think of and above everything that we can see, and the only way to experience Him is in contemplation, in prayer, and in our own self, in our own experience.